Online retail giant Wayfair's entry into brick-and-mortar shopping includes the Porch, an integrated cafe experience that enhances the customer journey. The Art of Culinary Spaces examines how this elevated quick service concept creates a unique shopping atmosphere while providing an essential customer amenity. Please welcome FCSI members Khaled, Halabi, Marleen St and Joe Sorgent from Cini-Little as they share insights on designing a cafe prototype intended to become a destination of its own while complementing Wayfair's retail environment. We're here today to talk about the online retailer Wayfair's brand new brick-and-mortar store, and more specifically, the Porch food service operations within the store. Joe, Khaled, and Marleen, thanks for joining the show. For season 3, we're starting off every episode the same, and the same question's been for every single episode of all 3 seasons now, and is, how did this project come about for you as consultants?
So we got a call from a client, the Wayfair client, to develop a prototype for the cafe that's going to go into their new brick-and-mortar locations. As you know, that the Wayfair is primarily an online retailer, or previously used to be an online retailer, and they've made a strategic shift to move into brick and mortar. And one of the things that decided to do is to have an F&B component. And I think primarily or initially our job was to develop the concepts of that F&B outlet on a prototype basis.
Nice. Now, how were each of you involved with the project?
I'll start with myself. I think I was the main lead of the project early on, kind of coordinating between myself, Marleen, Joe, and the client, some of the programming elements of the project early on. And I'll pass it over to Marleen, who was project manager.
Yep, I was the project manager, working day to day with Khaled, the architects, engineers, on calls with the client as well.
And I'm Joe Sorgent, and so I was in charge of the waste and the logistics handling for the entire facility.
Wow, nice. Now, Khaled, you mentioned that they've always been known as an online retailer. What motivated the decision to open a large brick and mortar store in Wilmette, Illinois?
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting question, Wade, because, as we see the current trends, or at the time when we set out to start this project, the current trend was maybe retailers shifting towards the virtual world or towards the online kind of point of sale. And we see a big manufacturer, a big retailer moving in completely the opposite direction. One that was very successful online, obviously, but they felt the need that they needed to move into a brick and mortar location. In addition, I think one of the things that kind of was equally as important to them as the retail component of the store is the F&B aspect of it as well, because from the get-go, they saw a real need of elevating the shopping experience within the Wayfair store, or the furniture shopping experience, by introducing an F&B component to pair with it.
If I can add to that. So, it's an additional promotion to their brand, and also allows, for people that, know them as online to be able to go in and touch and feel. And certainly when you're buying furniture, that can be a very important part of it. Even if they don't buy something that day, they at least have a chance to kind of go see things in person.
Absolutely. I'm 100% a furniture guy that has to touch and feel. Like I'm also that way with clothes still to this day too. Probably part of that's age, but the other part of it for furniture is I'm a fairly short guy at 5'6". So like not all couches are equal for me. So I don't want to be the guy that's sitting on the couch with my legs dangling, but I also don't want to be so, I've got certain ways that I want my couches in my house feel. And that's the one part of Wayfair I've always had a problem with when it comes to comfy stuff. And that is, you need to feel it. The hard stuff, cabinets and stuff, you kind of know, but the other was. So I guess, and I know that I'm putting you guys on the spot a little bit here, but really, I mean, do you feel like this is a trend that's for the retail side that's going to move towards the other way, going back for department stores? Or do you think that this is just kind of one of those one-offs because it is furniture?
I'll start in a little bit of that because I've worked on a few malls, in food service programming, and certainly in those malls, we're seeing them kind of transition to being more experience oriented, with a lot of entertainment. So I think, the Wayfair new model here with the brick and mortar, it certainly is something that matches that, and it's a unique retailing, which seems to be like, the latest thing going in. So they're definitely hitting a trend. How far they're going to take it, that depends on how successful they are. But so far, their first one seems to be pretty successful.
Wow, nice.
If I may add, Wade, to that as well.
Go ahead.
It was interesting for me to see that the strategy, the weighting of the F&B component, how much they weighted the F&B component against the retail. That was really interesting coming from a retailer to put the F&B at the same kind of weight and importance to the experience as the retail component was. And it's obvious that strategically Wayfair believes in this shift because, we believe this is part of their strategy going forward, and hopefully for them that they see benefit in this and roll this out, across multiple other brick and mortars around the country.
I agree. Let's dive into that a little bit deeper too. So why, after preliminary discussions with them about the options of opening up this place, why was food service included as an amenity in that store? I mean, what drove them, and the discussions between you guys made them decide that they had to have food service, a full food service operation inside the store?
From early on, Wade, I think there was a lot of emphasis on the need for the, that part of that kind of amenity. But I think there was a lot more emphasis put on the beverage side than the food side. And that's why the place is, the Porch is a licensed outlet. They serve wine and beer. And one of the things that they were adamant on having as part of that experience is introducing alcohol into the shopping experience, be it in either having it there at the Porch, for example, or having it while you also traverse through the store.
So to expand on that a little bit more too, I'm very curious as to what their thought process was. Is it one of those areas like, hey, if we have them drinking alcohol, they spend more money? Is it, hey, if we give them an opportunity to enjoy themselves, that they can spend more time in the store? I mean, what was kind of the vision behind serving, beer, wine, and liquor in the cafe?
I think everyone's looking at this question, smiling, thinking dollar signs, right? I think at the end of the day, whatever makes whatever makes them more profitable, as well as obviously just as important, enhancing the customer experience. And they decided that, the alcohol or the food and beverage component was something that was going to do both those two things.
Right.
It's a fun experience. Imagine shopping for a couch and then you cheers. Oh, we found our couch.
Exactly. And I want people to understand that have not either seen the pictures yet or read the article in the project showcase. This isn't just a walk-up cafe place like big box stores. This is an actual food service operation. How did you determine the size and the seating capacity that was going to be needed within the store?
I think we used, so this is a one of a kind, type of project, but we used similar experiences and projects to come up with metrics for sizing.
Other groups that you were, or other facilities you guys have worked on together, or did you do research about what else was out there? I mean, or is it a combination of both?
It was a combination of a few factors, Wade. It was a lot of past experiences that we've had, but it was also a benchmarking exercise of seeing similar locations which have a similar type of amenity as part of the shopping experience. There are a few furniture stores. There are a couple of furniture stores that we used as benchmark or were referenced quite often when we were talking about, the need to have F&B. And those are kind of the inspirations, or those are the benchmarking aspects with regards to sizing, but also with regards to an overall strategy.
Well, Joe alluded to earlier, and I know how I've been doing with enough work with consultants over the years that kind of where your mind goes from that. And that is, you start with the menu, but then I also know workflow for staff is very important to you guys always as consultants, because a lot of times that's the one area where when you're working with a client that they just want things here and there and necessarily don't think about flow as it goes through. I know you guys always do as consultants. So can you guys explain a little bit about how the open kitchen, it's got a grand prep island. I mean, they were all designed to enhance not only the customer experience, which is what we all want as a customer, but you guys think about customer experience and staff workflow at the same time. So can you guys explain to how all of that worked together to benefit both the customer and staff flow?
So I think the idea of having kind of that grand island was really for the food to be very visible and the flow of food to be very visible to the guests. So you walk up, you place your order, and you can see someone behind the counter preparing it right in front of you versus having it done in the back of house and brought up to the serving counter.
Nice. Now, to do that, you had to also do something that's coming kind of a little bit of a trend and maybe permanent. I don't know. We'll wait and see. It seems like everything becomes trends first, but you had to go all electric and you had to go ventless for all the equipment. So explain to people like what you put in, what kind of equipment is in there, and what all that equipment can do in this cafe in order to satisfy, a variety of things the customer may want menu wise.
So we have a oven in the back of house, ventless. And I think that was one of the constraints of the project as well, that we couldn't have gas or a type 1 grease hood. But again, I don't think this piece of equipment limited the menu at all. You can still serve a couple different items with that unit.
Okay. And then what kind of menu items are available during, if you want, I mean, obviously we know we got beer and wine. What kind of food can people expect to get while you're drinking along with your furniture?
Sure.
shopping?
So they have made to order sandwiches. So it can be hot or cold. They have soups as well. They can have all sorts of espresso based coffee beverages as well.
Okay. So also having draft beer is not something most designers have to think about when they're putting it into a furniture store. So you all had to face in, how do you integrate draft beer and wine service into this cafe in the middle of the store? So how were you able to overcome not having, a traditional type kitchen to work in?
Sure. So I think one of the constraints here was the size of the space. And so we do have a walk-in cooler in the back of house to store the kegs, as well as some extra space within the refrigerator for the draft beer as well.
Being a furniture store, lots and lots of cardboard, styrofoam, everything else. Joe, you're known as kind of a waste management expert as well. So a lot of times in retail and food service, I mean, I know food waste management is talked about, but you had to go not only food waste management, but you had store waste management to worry about. How did you approach to design a system that was accommodate both food service waste and the large volume of shipping related waste that was going to come from Wayfair store?
So I should mention that in our waste management practice, when we go in, we actually do the entire facility, and that we get pulled in very early. Because we often have to look at, with the shell and core, with mechanical and structural, looking at the docks, because we might need compactor containers. So we already have a holistic viewpoint when we came into this. We had tri-sort collection systems that included for commingled recyclables, your glass, metals, and plastics, as well as organics out and about. So it wasn't just coming from the food service. Certainly as a retail operation, cardboard is huge. So we had to put in a cardboard baler. We also had to find a special place to store a lot of pallets of cardboard in a dry space before pickup, because haulers don't come and pick them up one pallet at a time. You need about 10 or 13 before it's worth their while. So all that was coordinated, as well as other specialty waste. There's recyclable hazardous waste. There's hazardous waste. So flammable cabinets and shelving and other things, universal waste to be able to collect. So it was a very holistic approach.
Now this also has an outdoor seating area for the porch. So how did you guys bring in outdoor seating and lawn games? You've got self-service water stations. I mean, what do you hope that having that does, not only for sales of the food service operation, but what do you hope that does within Wayfair's structure of shopping experience? Again, like how does having a porch enhance the shopping experience?
I think so. Interestingly, that the name of the place, the name of the concept is called the Porch. So part of the what was important to introduce is this outdoor seating area, but it also kind of helped alleviate the space constraint and add more seats because based on our calculation of the footfall of the brick and the location, there was a real need to add as much seating as possible. So the outdoor space really did help. And then with regards to just having the games and, just introducing this element of outdoor, indoor just adds on to, again, the customer experience is front and center to everything that we were doing or everything that we were instructed to kind of consider when we were designing. And obviously having outdoor space for children and just kind of prolongs the shopping experience, keeping you in the store for longer and therefore spending more.
Yeah, absolutely. From a customer perspective, when somebody walks in there, this is the first time, it's the only place you can go for Wayfair. It's the first time you're walking in. What do you hope that the customer remembers most about shopping and dining at the Wayfair store?
I think if you were to ask us as food service consultants, selfishly, we'd say the food, the kind of the food and the beverage aspect of the experience was really important for us to get right. To from our side, obviously, we'd like that Wayfair has a product now of a shopping experience for their customers that covers all bases and kind of goes above and beyond other retailers. And considering this is their first brick and mortar, and this is 150,000 square feet, so they're going real big on the first one, we would hope that experience resonates with their clients.
Well, you can see it in other facilities, right? I mean, other people have had success with it. There's other furniture stores out there, big box furniture stores. There are Costco who knows what they can do with it. And you see how busy they are when you go in there. It makes sense. The longer you can get somebody to stay, whatever you're selling, you're better off. We've seen it in grocery stores now. I mean, so I don't think that's everybody's so pressed for time that if you can give me a place where I can get something to eat and get my shopping done at the same time, regardless what kind of shopping I'm doing, it saves me the time and fewer trips of driving from point A to point B. So I'm a huge fan of it. I'm sure most of you are as well. So
that's what I'm going to say. Shopping can get pretty boring sometimes. So if you give me a coffee and a cookie, I'm so happy walking through the store.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I, as a store, I said earlier before we started filming, a store to be named nameless, but I've been to that store many times and, you follow the path from entrance to exit and it's just monotonous. And you're just kind of like, at this point, I just want to get out. Mm-hmm. So anything that's going to distract me from the Disneyland style of touring through a store and let me get around and shop. And listen, alcohol's never going to hurt when it comes to helping me spend a little bit of money personally. So I'm all for it. And living in Illinois, I have not been to the store yet, but I definitely will be getting up there soon. I guess my last question before we let you guys go is, is this, talking with Wayfair, is this designed as a prototype for future stores? If it is, what elements have you learned from that were critical to replicate? And were there anything you learned from this to go, well, if we do another store, maybe we would do this differently?
I think interestingly that, the fact that Wayfair is prototyping this, so they have a real intent of rolling this out across multiple locations, hopefully nationwide. There are avenues to explore beyond what is now at the Porch in Illinois. And there are constraints that we worked with, one of them being space, obviously, but that's always going to be, square real estate is expensive, right? Right. But with this start, they will feel, this is a great starting point for them to start exploring avenues of F&B that maybe are slightly more maybe elevated, or maybe some menu changes, or, for example, more than we go back to beers and alcohol, but maybe we have 4 kinds of beer on tap instead of 2, just as an example. Right. So I think that's going to set them up for the little tweaks that we're going to start seeing for them to get this formula absolutely right. And as you mentioned the store, I mean, you mentioned Costco and other stores of like-minded amenity. They've had years and years and decades even to perfect this amenity and this service. So it's expected that Wayfair is going to go through that same process until they find the right balance.
People talk about location. So it's interesting whether the futures is going to be retrofit or greenfield. And these store sizes are good for kind of like taking over these anchor tenants that are, dropping like flies. And then you have plenty of parking. You've got other stores that can kind of, oh, I'm going there, but hey, Wayfair's next door. So what the heck? So it's going to be an interesting thing on the strategy. And certainly going into the retrofits, there's always challenges. So I think that's a lesson learned. We had it on the waste at the docks and all that kind of stuff.
So not been to the store yet. Obviously, I've been to plenty of furniture stores in my life. I don't know that I've ever been in any that have a restaurant with alcohol and everything in it. So I'm the customer. I walk into the store. I know I'm walking into a furniture store, but you've got to get me to the food service area in some way, shape, or form. And you have to do it to where I'm going to stick around. So walk me through the conversations you had with Wayfair about placements of when the customer experience starts, when they walk through that front door, where are they going to run into the food service? So where is it placed within the operations, and why was it placed there, I guess?
Yeah, that's a great question, Wade. And, we touched on earlier our benchmarking exercises with similar retailers and other retailers who have an F&B component in their location. And one of the things that was emphasized during the early programming phase and coordinated with the architect and the client a great deal is, where do we locate? What's the best strategic location for having this amenity where it's not intruding on the main primary core function of the space, but adding or enhancing that experience? Now, obviously, the obvious answer is closer to the entrance. One of the things that was also very important is not only is it close to the entrance, but it needed its own entry point. So it served as also kind of a unit on its own that was adding to the space rather than a coffee shop within the entire store. But that's a great question. And I think, as Wayfair take this prototype across other locations, I think you're going to start seeing that strategy evolve and that concept kind of grow. And obviously, I mean, there's going to be lessons learned from, the first location, and hopefully that they can just build on as they open more and more locations.
Before I let you go, how can people find out more about you guys and Cini-Little in particular?
Everyone can find us on our website, obviously, cini-little.com. We're also very big on, we're very active on LinkedIn. There is a lot of great content there that we shoot some interviews on our website or on our page on LinkedIn. So please check us out. And, we're here if you have any food service related queries or questions. We're here to help.
Thank you for joining us for this edition of the Art of Culinary Spaces. We hope this conversation has sparked your creativity and inspired new ideas within the world of food service design and planning. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button so you don't miss out on all of our future podcasts. Stay tuned for our next episode when we explore another groundbreaking project and exceptional design from FCSI members that are transforming the culinary landscape.